Sports stories from the 419 in Northwest Ohio, brought to you by a voice you know. It's time to go around the area and around the Hearn.
Hello there. Merry Christmas to you, and welcome to probably the final Around the Hearn of 2022. My favorite and least favorite week of the year, in that there's a lot of things going on. A lot of cool tournaments and a lot of great action. But also the last week of the year. And it always makes me sad because it's kind of see where we've come from, where we're going sort of thing. The 22 season has been terrific for Northwest Ohio. You look at state championships, records that have been broken, coaches who have gotten milestone games, and it's been pretty cool. But a lot of personal things. 2020 can go ahead and head right, or 2022 rather, can go ahead and head right out the door with 2020. Nobody will be all that sad to see it go. We've got a big week of the show as the Parkway girls basketball coach, Dan Williamson, will be in the house. Well, live via phone. And not really live, but tape delay. Talking about his team's 10-win season and what they have before they start in the new year of 2023. Ciera Rupert will talk about St. Mary's Swim and about her club season as well, and try to explain to me exactly the intricacies of the swimming world. And an old friend for me, guy that I've known for a while from my Springfield days. I was just watching some video from about 10 or 11 years ago. Now, in Tim Cary, he might have the coolest story of all, and that he was just on Wheel of Fortune a couple of days ago from the greater Dayton area. And if you haven't seen the episode, I'm sure it's on YouTube and on the internets as well. But I love that all three of those people were able to come on this week, even with the Christmas season kind of jammed in the middle, and made some time. I can't say enough good things about those three. Looking at the world of things going on, first, big shout-out to Carla Siegel, the head girls basketball coach at Fort Loramie. Picked up her 500th win to go along with the mantle of state titles they have down there in Loramie. Will actually be in about a week and a half when Ottawa Glendorf plays down there on a Saturday afternoon, and then a week or so after that for the MLK tournament in 6 games in one day for the boys' side. Biggest news, Coldwater's Evan Holman announced on Twitter he's headed to play college football at Tiffin, which is becoming a very popular destination for young men and women from Northwest Ohio. Riley Irwin from Liberty Benton is headed there. She just happens to have broke the three-point record at LB a couple of nights ago. Speaking of the BVC, where Liberty Benton plays, see what I did? They voted to kick out Van Loo, just in football, beginning the 23-24 school year. Van Loo maybe goes to 8-man, kind of see what happens there. I'd love to get somebody from out there and get a take on that. Coaching news, Bath hired away Lamar Houston as a new boys soccer coach from Allen East, where he spent 8 years and won 5 Coach of the Year awards on the girls' side. And the women's soccer coach, Mark Botimus, at Ohio Northern University for the last 19 years, where he won 235 games, stepped down at Northern. He is going to be announced as a new soccer coach at the University of Toledo. St. Mary's Wrestling, they get back in action on Wednesday and Thursday. They go to Marion Harding for the Harding Classic that's been going on for 51 years, while the boys and girls bowling teams still undefeated on the season are home on Tuesday against Van Wert. Coldwater's wrestling team heads to the Jay County Invitational on Wednesday and Thursday, while their swimming team will be where Ciera will be on, I believe it's Tuesday and Thursday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, at the Lima YMCA Swimming Invite. And you'll hear her talk about that coming up in a bit. Coldwater Cavs boys and girls bowling will be at Salina, where they will battle St. Henry on a Tuesday. Some of the things going on from the easy-to-access websites of those particular schools. Big girls basketball games coming up this week. Ottawa Glendorf takes on Crestview, who just handed Liberty Benton their first loss of the year. And then the ladies from OG travel to Columbus Grove on Thursday night. You can hear those games on WZOQ Radio. Spencerville has a big Wednesday and Thursday at the New Bremen Invitational, where they have St. Mary's and New Bremen playing in this new tournament they've got down there last couple of years. You can hear those on Z Sports 3. Audubon takes on Columbus Grove on Tuesday night. Audubon then goes to Kalida on a Thursday night. That will be a big one. And also Tuesday night, you can hear on Z3, Spencerville and St. Mary's boys. That'll be a battle. Spencerville with just a couple of losses after suffering a rare loss last week. They've got 6'10", 6'7", 6'6" to have to deal with. Minster and Audubon boys coming up on Wednesday night. You can hear on WZOQ radio. Same night as Spencerville and New Knoxville boys. Tip it up. We've got Fort Jennings and Grove on Z Sports Live. Just some things that are going on right now. I'm excited mostly about Friday night. Lima Central Catholic travels to Ottawa to take on the Titans in the boys' side. Other things going on, Fort Loramie on a Tuesday playing in an invitational down at Thomas Worthington. The Bath girls Thursday night against Bluffton. And then Tuesday and Thursday, one of the favorite nights at the Salida Fieldhouse for me. Can't make it this year, unfortunately, but the Avisco Classic has got Salida taking on Coldwater. St. Henry against Marion Local. And the finals and the consolation for that on Thursday. You can hear that on WCSM. And then Miller City and Ayersville on Thursday night. And at Continental on Friday night. Those will be good matchups as well. Boys side this week. Perry and Wapak on Tuesday night. St. Henry, Salina, and the AAA Holiday Classic on Wednesday night. Same night as LCC at Shawnee. Van Wert at Lincoln View was supposed to be just a boys start, but it'll now be the JV will play early in the day at Van Wert on both sides, the boys and the girls, and then it'll be a varsity double dip starting at 6 o'clock at Lincoln View on a Thursday night. Girls will go first, boys will play after that. Friday night's also got Bremen and Elida, Marion Harding and Kenton, St. Mary's at Findlay. That'll be a good one as well. But a lot of things going on before the calendar turns. Something kind of cool, one of the big sponsors of some things that we do on Z Sports Live. The Red Pig Inn, they've got all kinds of specials going on through the course of the week, and I hope that you had a Merry Christmas and that wherever you go for New Year's Eve that you are safe. And with the way that the weather has been, I hope you're warm as well. But that is kind of a look at things going on around the area. When we come back, we'll talk Parkway girls basketball with Dan Williamson. Talk about Wheel of Fortune with Tim Cary and swimming with Ciera Rupert from St. Mary's. All of that when we come back here on Around the Hearn.
The Spencerville Athletic Boosters are a 501c3 organization committed to supporting the student athletes at Spencerville local schools. All donations made to the Boosters go to the athletes for new jerseys, huddle equipment, and much, much more. To learn more about the Boosters and to help our athletes succeed on the field with your generosity off the field, please visit facebook.com/Spencerville Athletic Boosters. Or if you have questions, please contact Sean McFerrin at BearcatBoosters@Outlook.com. Let's go Bearcats. Back as we talk about the unbeaten Parkway Panthers, the ladies 10-0 on the year and off to an obviously great start as we talk to the head coach and Dan Williamson. And Dan, congratulations on the start of the season, and that extra hard work you guys are putting in is obviously paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited about what we've accomplished so far at the beginning of the season. The girls worked really hard last off season over the summer. They put a lot of time in getting in the gym and playing together with open gym. So it's really good to see their hard work paying off to this point.
You've got an older group that's obviously got a terrific pair of leaders, but I mean, 4 years ago you guys go 3-20. You've picked up 7, 9, and 14 wins in that span. Is there kind of something that has changed, or is it just, to go back to it, the hard work's paying off?
Well, a little bit of both. Yeah, I mean, we've got girls that have put a lot of time in, over the summer. That's definitely a part of it. But I think, we've kind of changed the mentality a little bit. The girls, a couple of years ago kind of hoped that we could win some games. And I think we're at the point now where they know that they're good enough to beat good teams. And that's kind of what we're seeing the fruit of that right now, I think.
When you get to that point, is that a specific conversation? You talk about changing the culture and changing the mindset. a specific conversation or just kind of maybe little things here and there of, okay, if we do this and we're half a second better or 2 shots more or whatever, that maybe we could do some extra?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I first got here, we talked about doing the little things just a little bit better. Can we box out just a little bit better? Can we take care of the ball just a little bit better? Can we prepare just a little bit better? Can we watch a little bit more film than maybe we're used to doing? So it's a combination of a lot of little things, and it's taken, when I first got here, this is my 4th year. It's taken, until this point to kind of see everything start to click. But yeah, it was definitely a process that the girls had to buy into. And I think, from day one, that senior class that I had when I first got here, they kind of started this whole thing. And then the senior class after that kind of picked it up, and each group, year after year has done a better job of kind of passing on what we've accomplished and kind of, let the girls know, it can be done, we can get better. And it's just been a really nice thing to see, the girls kind of take ownership in.
I'm always kind of fascinated from a coaching perspective of with being able to look at other sports. And I know you have a lot of girls who are multi-sport athletes. It seems like that it's become kind of an infectious thing in terms of winning with the ladies programs there at Parkway, that everything is kind of on the upswing. Is there any carryover with having a lot of those same girls of they're going in and going, we don't have to say as much because everybody understands now if we put the work in, we could get these wins?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our volleyball team had a great season this year. And a lot of our basketball players were on that volleyball team. Cross country made it to regionals the last couple of years, and we have some cross country runners. So we have a lot of fall sport athletes that had a lot of success, and that definitely carries over because they have that confidence that they can compete at a high level against good competition. And our softball team as well. They had a great season last year, and we have a lot of softball players too. So playing other sports, is good in that aspect because the girls get to compete, obviously in different sports, but just keeping that level of competition up has been huge, I think.
That always makes me laugh because you can see for a lot of programs, whether it's boys or girls, where if one program is good, then 2 programs start to get good. It just kind of builds. And people always say, well, what about why don't they just specialize in one sport? I mean, I've never kind of understood that. I kind of think maybe your success a little bit is because those girls are so well-rounded.
Yeah, absolutely. And every college coach that I've ever talked to or heard from, they want multi-sport athletes. So I think the perspective of, I want to focus on one sport. Every kid's different, but being well-rounded and well-diverse, I think makes you a better athlete and a better person.
Last night you guys beat Salina by 18, and you go in and you look at it, and Gabby has a big night with 17. Allison Hughes with a double-double, 16 and 12. I mean, looking at just at that, your 2 big players on your front line combined for 29 and are just able to kind of set the pace of that game. What is it with those 2 girls? Because I've seen a lot and heard a lot that they play so well together that makes them such a dangerous duo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody on our team really cares who gets the credit. That's one of the biggest reasons of, kind of the success with this group. They all get along really well on the court, off the court. They move the ball so well. They share it really well. They don't care. They just want to win. And I think that's a really big part of the success, obviously, but a lot of that goes into how they were coached when they were younger, when they were in elementary, junior high. Those coaches really impressed upon them that not, one player can't do it all, that you've got to involve your teammates. And they do a really nice job of leading us, in the scoring, in the rebounding categories. but they're very unselfish too. They'll definitely find open teammates.
Murderer's row is what pretty much any coach talks about in any sport that plays in the Midwest Athletic Conference. You guys have that built-in kind of playoff run throughout the course of the year. But what is it about your non-conference schedule that I look at it and I say, okay, they added some heavy hitters the last handful of years that you maybe felt comfortable that you were at that level at that point to take those challenges on?
Yeah, I mean, you want to challenge yourself, with every game that you play. Like you said, with our conference, you've got to show up every night and you've got to be ready to play, because anybody can beat anybody on any Thursday night. It's going to be a physical game. They're going to eat. Every team's going to be well coached. The girls are going to be ready to play. So I think just having a tougher non-conference schedule kind of keeps you mentally kind of into it. So you don't kind of, we can relax tonight because we're playing whatever team. The tougher teams you play, you've got to show up every night and be ready to play.
I'm sure at some point after this run that you've heard this, because I've heard people say it, Parkway's off to a nice start. When you hear that, I mean, it's obviously a little bit different. And we talked about the work kind of that you've been putting in, paying off in the sense of things are going your way. I mean, what's that do to your ears?
You got to take it with a grain of salt. When things are going well, you don't want to necessarily buy into it. It's great to hear. It's great to hear the compliments and everything. But you don't want to kind of start believing the hype. We talk to the girls all the time about, the more we win, the harder we've got to push, because we're going to get everybody's best game. Everybody's going to want to give us our first loss. So we've got to show up ready to play, and we've got to give every opponent our best game. That's really the biggest thing that we've kind of talked about with our players. We talk every day, the work that they put in, caused all of these things to happen. All the recognition that they're getting is because of that hard work that they put in. So we want to keep reminding them that that's, how we got where we are. And we don't want to let up now and kind of slip up.
Maybe more than a lot of other teams, you guys have almost a college break in the middle of your schedule between Salina and Botkins. Was that just because other teams and other sports success, or did that naturally draw out that way?
No, we've had that as our schedule for a while. We used to host a holiday tournament here at Parkway, but that's been probably over for 4 or 5 years. And we've just never been able to get an opponent to play during that time. So that makes it tough having 2 weeks in between games. So we're in the process of hopefully finding a team that we can scrimmage over break. That way we're not off for 2 full weeks. Because the girls are used to playing, 2 or 3 games a week. And then to be off for that long, you would definitely, there would be some rust, obviously, when we came back in January. So hopefully that's something we can change in our schedule either next year or the year after. But yeah, that's just kind of something that has happened that we haven't been able to kind of change yet.
See, I always wondered if it would be harder if you maybe weren't playing great, didn't have a winning record going into that break, or if it's harder now of playing well and trying to continue that with a 2-week span between Salina and Botkins.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously want to be playing well, but we, as well as we're playing right now, we definitely want to keep it going. So I think with our leadership coming back with our seniors and our juniors, I think this group can handle it. It's just one of those things of, a little bit of adversity. How are we going to handle that? The girls so far this year, I think, have handled the bits of adversity that we've come up against pretty well. So this is just another one of those things. I think, we'll have to challenge them mentally to, show up every day when we practice. But it'll be nice to be able to give them a couple of days off. Where if we were playing over break, maybe they wouldn't have gotten that many days off. So there's some give and take there as well. We can give them some time off that they'll need, and they can kind of get refreshed mentally too.
Coming out of the break, you go 4 games away from home in a 5-game span, 5 games over 17 days. Cool places to go, Botkins, Versailles, and Sonia Coldwater. Just not traditionally easy places for opponents to win.
Yep, absolutely. Four solid teams that we're going to have to be ready to go against. Botkins has a new coach this year, so we'll have to do a good job of seeing what they have on film and showing up. And Versailles and Coldwater obviously are going to be 2 tough MAC games. Coldwater has some good players. They have Riley Rissmiller, their 6'5" post player. I mean, she's going to be a force to regardless of how good you are. And then Versailles is an improved team from last year. So we've definitely got our work cut out for us. But we obviously feel good about where we are too.
I know that the coach's answer is the next one, but I would be remiss if I did not ask this. I always ask every coach, when you go through and you set your schedule up and you get a couple of days before the start of the season, is there a team on your schedule that you either look at as a litmus test or that you really like going against because you know that's going to be a massive challenge no matter how good or bad we are?
Yeah, definitely. Every year in the MAC, you definitely can count on Minster being solid. You can count on Marion Local being solid. So those are definitely 2 teams that you can kind of see how good you really are. This year, I think Coldwater could be that test just because they pose a different challenge. Going up against a 6'5" post player, can our girls respond and play a little bit differently if needed? You definitely want to challenge yourself against those good teams to kind of see where you are as your team.
I have to ask this because it's come up. I've read it. When you go into this season, you guys are obviously pretty good right now at 10-0. I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. You've not won the MAC. St. Henry's not won the MAC. You finish at St. Henry later in the year. Is, with that set of expectations you talked about, talking to the girls in the preseason, something that has been brought up, or is it something that we go one game by game and kind of see where we're at?
Well, we do a little bit of both. I mean, the girls set their goal as winning the conference this year. So that's obviously a conversation that we've had. It's a conversation that we'll continue to have. I don't necessarily want to say that, we're just completely locked in on one game. But we do want to kind of look at the whole schedule. And we definitely feel like we've set ourselves up to be in the conversation to win the MAC. Everybody around here knows that the girls have never won the MAC and girls basketball. So that's a goal that they set for themselves. I thought it was a reachable goal, a really good goal. So we'll just have to see kind of how that turns out. But we kind of saw St. Henry at the end of our schedule, and we knew that they were going to be a better team than last year because their incoming freshman class was really good in junior high, and they've proven to be a much better team. So that could end up being a pretty big game at the end of the season.
See, I'm that guy that, from what I do for a living, I have to try to find stories to make things bigger, and I thought it was kind of apropos that Parkway and St. Henry are the only 2 teams without a title, and you can get to the end and possibly get your title by beating them. That's just the weird thing in me, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You look at the schedule and you're like, oh, okay, we have Minster and Marion Local at home. Those are, kind of the 2 big dogs, but then we got to go to Coldwater. We got to go to Versailles. We got to go to St. Henry. So it's, you kind of take it with a grain of salt, but, we don't want to kind of shy away or be afraid of having that conversation of, yeah, we can win the conference. But we don't want to focus on, the big picture. We still want to be taking care of business and playing that one game at a time.
Outside of being 10-0, is this team where or near where you thought they could be through 10 games going into your break at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I mean, in some regards, we're ahead. I think we're better defensively than I anticipated. The girls have just really bought in to what we have asked them to do defensively. I mean, we're probably giving up around 30 points a game. So if we can continue to do that and guard people, I think we can continue to win a lot of games. Offensively, I think we're still a work in progress. We're not shooting the ball as well as I anticipated we would. And that's something that hopefully will come along. But the nice part is Allison Hughes has been huge in the post for us. Gabrielle Stober has been awesome getting to the basket and finishing. And a lot of other girls have stepped up too. So hopefully, as the season progresses, our offense will continue to improve, but we've also got to keep working hard defensively.
See, I like that question because I always paint it to people of coaches are never happy.
No, we're not.
And if you are, probably something is about to go wrong.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, after I don't remember what game it was, but we had a pretty big win, and I came in the locker room and I was like, "Hey, girls, I'm never going to tell you that you played a perfect game. I'm always going to have something that we can work on." And they all nodded their heads. They understand that's just the way it goes. But yeah, coaches, you're right. Coaches are never happy. It doesn't matter. You could win by 100, and the coach would still find something to nitpick about.
Right. We missed 2 free throws.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate you. I'm so glad of what you guys are able to do, and I hope that the success continues the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you. It's just been really exciting. The community is supporting us really well, and we appreciate that. But yeah, hopefully we can continue to play well, get some more wins, and hopefully by the end of the season, we're competing for that MAC championship.
That's Dan Williamson, the head coach at 10-0 Parkway. We've got some more coming up here in just a couple of minutes.
Lee Kinsel Sales and Service, 650 West Urban Road. New Chevys, Buicks, GMCs, and all your pre-owned vehicles. We've got an award-winning service department and an award-winning parts department. What a great team. 866 Lee Kinsel, LeeKinsel.com, 650 West Urban Road, Van Wert, Ohio. Come see us and you'll leave happy. There's nothing like a Kinsel deal. We've been in business for over 50 years and looking forward to the next 50. 650 West Urban Road, Lee Kinsel Sales and Service. Come on over, Lima Land.
It's cold outside. It's just before Christmas, and hopefully this is a story that will warm you up. A little different than what we normally do on this show, but Tim Cary, who covers the Miami Redhawks, and I've known kind of for a while, is something pretty cool. He was on Wheel of Fortune a couple of nights ago. And Tim, how does that come about?
The odds seem somewhat small, but, there's people on that show every day, so they've got to come from somewhere. I filled out an application back in August and kind of worked my way through the process. Auditioned in September, found out I was going to be on the show in October, filmed it in November, and then it aired this week in December.
I read a lot. Springfield News-Sun has a really nice article on you, and I know that's kind of with where you've come from and where you've been, something probably a little dear to your heart. But, I mean, just the process of getting to that feels like it had to be almost a full-time gig.
No, it is really not as involved as you would think. Like, you make a 60-second video, try and, show some personality. And, I mean, I'm a pretty detail-oriented person, so I did a good amount of research of, other people that had gotten on the show or auditioned on the show, but it was never anything I was, like, crazy pursuing. Just, well, it can't hurt to try. But when you're good at solving puzzles and you're like, this is a game show I feel like I would have a chance to be good at, but also what are they looking for in a contestant? So trying to solve that recipe, so to speak, and then in an audition, hopefully do your best to both both ways to prove, okay, I know how to fill in blanks with puzzles, but also I'm somebody that you can put on TV.
I would think that would have to be one of the harder things of how am I interesting but not over the top?
Yeah, like I prepped for it kind of like a job interview. I mean, I thought through kind of your story of what would be something that would get people's attention, kind of have a hook. Where do you come from? Like, they want to hear something on your audition video besides I wanted to be on my Wheel of Fortune my whole life, because that's pretty much everybody. But it ultimately boiled down to, when I did watch the show, you're sitting in a room with somebody. I always seemed to know what the answer was before the people on the screen and before the people I was watching. Everyone's like, you're really good at that. And so it's like, well, I'd love to have a chance to try, but again, the odds don't really seem all that in your favor. And it was cool that it worked out, and you get a chance to, one way or another, at least have the experience instead of it being just a hypothetical.
How long was it in between the time that you went out to California to tape that and the time that it actually aired?
A little more than a month and a half. So we taped early November, and then it aired December 22nd.
Is that nerve-wracking that you kind of have to keep a lot of things to yourself?
It was a lot easier to keep the secret about how the episode went when hardly anyone knew that I had done it. So the last week and a half before the show aired, they sent you an official photo that you could put on social media and encourage people to watch and tune in. And then, it becomes a conversation topic with lots of people, and it's a little hard to keep under wraps. But anything that you would win from the show, you don't get until afterwards. So, they take it pretty seriously, the whole no spoilers. And, you kind of know the rules of what you're signing up for, and so it wasn't that hard to play along.
I can imagine it's a lot of people of, oh, that's where you went.
Yeah, it was a week that we had a road hockey series, and it worked out pretty well. They taped in the middle of the week, so I took a couple days off. Somebody in our office filled in, helping out with our midweek press conference one week when I was gone. The hardest part is that day when you're taping, you can't be on your cell phone or anything. Like, I was about as far off the grid as you can go, and when you work in communications, that's kind of hard to be like, doesn't matter what happens, I can't check my phone to know what's going on. But people see you're gone for a couple days and then start to put the pieces together later.
How different was that? Because when you look at it, it's 22, 23 minutes on TV with the commercials and everything, but it takes significantly longer to tape one of those episodes.
Yeah, it flies by. It really does. I mean, they take little breaks where you would have like a normal commercial break. So after each round, they would take the contestants off the set, and you have a contestant coordinator or coach that's kind of helping you know, hey, here's what's going to be on the next puzzle, like the theme, or don't forget this prize wedge is on the puzzle or whatever. And Pat and Vanna kind of go find out what the puzzle is going to be. But in general, it really does just fly by. And, Jeopardy or something like that, you have returning champions. Wheel of Fortune, it's like you only do once in your life. So I remember thinking when it all got done, like, okay, now I feel comfortable and know what's happening. Like, when do I get to play the game for real? And it's already over.
Are you able to enjoy that while you're doing it, or is it there's so much going on that kind of afterwards you take a deep breath and go, wow, okay, that's what I've been trying to do?
I enjoyed the whole experience, but the actual recording, taping, I really felt like was more just kind of, you're trying to manage and do the best you can. It's a weird mix of, you know that there are people there watching you live. So, I mean, you have a microphone, you feel like you're on a stage, but you also know it's going to get recorded and edited for television later, and a lot more people are going to see it. So you have all of that to manage, but just trying to think about solving puzzles, what you do with the wheel, where are my hands going to go? Like, you've got this counter, to kind of set your hands on. You're looking at the scoreboard. You're looking at a used letter board that lets you know what letters are left. Like, when you watch the show on TV, everything is condensed on the screen in front of you. And when you're there, it's very spread out. And so just trying to think through everything in real time, plus solving puzzles, which, kind of takes your whole express focus and concentration.
Well, and it's a little bit different the last handful of years, obviously with COVID and with everything, kind of even down to the way that you spin the wheel, right? Because you can't just grab it with your hand. You guys have a little device. Is that right?
So they had been using devices to grab the spokes of the wheel. This year they went back to, you could actually just grab it, but they were very serious about COVID protocols. They did testing the day before taping and on site, and people were wearing masks except when you were actually on TV, basically. They were sanitizing the wheel and the counter and all of that stuff between each round, but they did go away from the whole something you hold in your hand to grab a spoke.
Because when I watched it for the couple of years that they had that, I kept thinking, I think that's what I would be the most nervous about, because you're reaching across and you're trying to line that up perfectly every time.
Yeah, I definitely was nervous more than about a lot of other things. Of, am I going to be able to get the wheel to spin and move? And they have these, suggestions or tips of like how to best spin it, because it's heavy. It's more than 2,000 pounds. But you get a chance to practice before it starts. And once I actually spun it the first time I practiced, I was like, okay, I'm relieved. Like, I'm not going to have to worry about that or, think about it moving. Like, I was able to get it to go where I wanted it to.
That would be the hardest part, where I would just tell everybody else, hold on, I've got 10 more of these. You can get your turn when it's your turn.
Yeah, I didn't want to be in a situation where I was like so self-conscious about spinning the wheel that I was going to have to change my strategy based on, oh no, I have to spin the wheel again in front of people. So I was glad. I mean, like I said, it's heavy, but it's a wheel. It spins, it moves, and that was encouraging once I finally got a chance to try it.
I know they're big on, they edit out things, like you were talking about, to kind of make it run smoother that maybe don't affect the game itself. Did you find watching it back that there was maybe one or two things that you picked up of, oh, okay, they kicked that one out?
Yeah, there were definitely a couple things like that. The biggest one, from my perspective, you could tell that they kind of tighten up the time when people are going to spin. So if you're sitting up there hesitating on what you're going to do I want to spin? Do I want to buy a vowel? Like that all disappears. And even though I played the game a million billion times on a computer, on an app, like in my head, I definitely had my mouth open to call a consonant at one point before spinning the wheel, which seems impossible and irrational, but in real life, there's just a lot happening, and I definitely had it not quite out of my mouth, but when you watch the show, you wouldn't have had any idea.
People who don't follow you on Twitter, first of all, are missing out, because you do great work with Miami of Ohio and especially with the hockey team. But I'm fascinated now by the last line in your Twitter bio. What is the deal that you say, Pat Sajak told you to stop tweeting?
Well, it was funny because on the show, one of the things that they had found when you fill out the survey, kind of for your Pat chat, they call it, things that he might ask you about. I had gone back when I was searching through Twitter and seen a couple old tweets, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, of things when somebody had mentioned, oh, I want to be on Wheel of Fortune. And I kind of jokingly said, well, let me know if you ever figure out how, or something like that. So that was one of the things he asked me about on the show. And I said, I've been on Twitter a long time. I think I got my account back in 2009 or something like that. And it was interesting to go back and look at those tweets from however long ago, because I've wanted to be on the show my whole life. He's like, oh, you made it. You can stop tweeting now. So I thought I might take that quote out of context and use it for a while.
Someone will tell him that, and I'd be like, wait, what? That's funny, though, because that's something that, you can look at the journey as a whole, and you might forget one or two things later, but you'd be like, no, I'm going to hold on to that one for a while.
Yeah, and the little chance that I had to talk to Pat and Vanna, it was cool because, Pat is a big hockey fan, and so he said something about hockey when I mentioned it on the show, and then I got a chance to kind of talk to him a little bit afterward. Enjoyed that.
Speaking of hockey, you've got the season going right now with Miami as they sit at 6-10-2 overall. That big lull in between those back-to-back games in Oxford where they split with St. Cloud State, now the end of the year, a double dip with Niagara. What's the breakdown, though? Because you go 20 days off, then they play Niagara in Oxford, and there's another 2 weeks. Is that just the way that the school breaks down at Miami right now?
Yeah, you got a little bit of break over the holidays. Last year was an even bigger break. We did not have a series. Kind of this year is the 30th and 31st. The World Juniors traditionally happen over that time. So Red Savage from our team is part of Team USA, and they'll be competing. I think the first game is the 26th, so looking forward to watching that. But yeah, we play in, probably the greatest conference in college hockey, the NCHC. I think there were 5 teams last year in the national tournament out of our 8-team league. So, every night is a battle, and hopefully coming off that win against St. Cloud State, they were ranked number 4 in the country. I think we beat them 5-0 and hopefully build off that momentum going into the second half of the year.
Are you making all of these trips throughout the course of the year?
No, my department focuses on home events especially, so I'm usually at home games and then helping, in other sports besides hockey as well. And we can do post-game press conference after a road game. We'll do over Zoom, that sort of thing.
Well, then you luckily don't have to go to Denver and Omaha in January. That seems like that might be pretty cold.
I look outside today and seeing all the snow. They're definitely, you never quite know where you're going to get in a winter trip.
What's what is it about college hockey that maybe people don't realize or don't know with how that season goes? Because it seems like it's pretty much a marathon in terms of being able to go from beginning to end, but it's a sprint in that there are a lot of games jam-packed in there on back-to-back nights.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting with having basically 2-game series pretty much every weekend. I like the symmetry of it, honestly. I mean, from a perspective of a press conference or game notes or what your workflow is like pretty much every week there's games Friday, Saturday, but it is a long season. I mean, we started October 1st. I think that was the earliest start date in Miami hockey history, and heading into, postseason play beginning mid-March.
Right now, a lot of big things going on. You've just got to be, I would think, pretty happy in that you go from one thing to another. I mean, I've always noticed that you talked about being detail-oriented. That's one of my favorite things about things you write is that I can look at it and go, okay, I know exactly what I need to know now.
Yeah, I mean, I am a firm believer in the idea that everybody has a story, and as we try and, build awareness for Miami athletics, like whether it's players, coaches, administrators, alumni, one of the reasons that I was drawn to working in college sports as opposed to like a feature writer with a professional team or something. I mean, if you're a writer for an NFL team, you're writing for 3 or 4 month season, and then the majority of your work here is off-season work, where here, there's always a sport happening at Miami, and it's neat to be able to, even though I help with the media coordination and, contact perspective for hockey, am involved with football, basketball, all these different sports to be able to go and write stories and even learning more about sports that I didn't know as well. So I write feature stories. We publish them at MiamiRedHawks.com/front row features. And so a lot of the things I write are published there. Since I started working at Miami in September 2021, I've learned more about field hockey. We have a great program in that sport. Learned more about synchronized skating. I wrote a story about the steeplechase and track that, things that I would always wonder as a fan that didn't know a ton about that particular event, like what's it like to run through water and your shoes get wet and waterlogged, and some of those things, if I'm willing to ask the questions in a way that is not, too clueless, people that know a lot more than me can tell me what they know, and I try and package that and relay it in a way that other people appreciate because it interests me.
Well, I'm not a big fan of water in my shoes, so that would not work for me.
Yeah, I like the water rides at Kings Island, that sort of thing, but then, you're pretty waterlogged going around the rest of the day. So that's why I was wondering if you're running through a water pit 7 times or 8 times around a track, like that's got to be a little crazy.
They're going so much faster, I feel like, than we are, that it's probably a whole other thing.
Yeah, hard to compare there, but definitely a intense event, intense sport. It was interesting that we had the MAC men's and women's individual champion this last year, and that was part of the impetus of me writing that story. And one of them was saying that they had miscounted the number of laps. So you have this crazy intense race, but when they got done as the leader, they had said there was still one more lap to go. It's like, I'm confident that I've run the right number of laps, but I don't want to risk stopping now. So he took off and ran another lap, and everybody followed along behind him. So that's probably the hardest lap of his entire life.
Right, because I never would have thought of that. Well, we just miscounted.
Yeah, you never quite know what happens, but those are the kind of things like I really enjoy the features that I get to write. And you ask questions, sometimes you just find out things that you had no idea that was going to be the answer, and I never quite know what you're going to learn next. So that's one of the things I really like about the job.
Well, I'm excited for you, obviously, for everything that's been going on. I've been following your work for a long time. I love being able to check out what you have going on, and just congratulations and all the hard work and everything kind of continuing to pay off.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Exciting what's going on in Oxford. Enjoyed being a part of it.
That's Tim Cary. You can find him on Twitter at Tim Cary. It's pretty easy. TIMCARY. Back with more here in just a couple of minutes. Ottawa's iconic Red Pig Inn is under new ownership. Anissa and Nate Musil, along with Kyle Benrow, have brought back the original award-winning rib recipe to go along with their daily specials. Open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., but closed on Tuesdays. The Red Pig has great drink selections and a spacious bar and dining area. Come watch your favorite sports on their 12 big-screen TVs, which includes WZOQ's coverage of select Lady Titans basketball games. The Red Pig Inn, 1470 North Perry Street in Ottawa. You know, it might not seem like it, but it is a swim season, and if you're stuck inside, it's a pretty good idea to just sit back and learn. So we talk about St. Mary's swimming with Ciera Rupert, and a lot of big things. I mean, you're coming off of a pretty big weekend last weekend in Bowling Green, right?
Yeah, we had a big weekend last week. It was our first high school meet for a lot of us because we've been competing in USA and Y meets, so it's really good to all come back for a good big meet together. It was a prelims and finals meet, and we had a lot of good outcomes and time drops from that. It was pretty exciting.
I think you're being a little bit modest. You broke a school record, right?
Yes, I broke my school record in the 200 IM in the A final. Some of my other teammates made the A final as well, like Reese Triplett. And the A final is basically like the top 10 in the region, and you get to compete one last shot, and they even do some walkout music, and they just try to get a big like promotion, and it's a really exciting environment to compete in.
I guess I never would have thought of the finals turning into a WWE show.
It gets pretty intense.
When you look at that, how different is that for swimming that you're talking about? Where when you guys are going through your season, that by the time you hit your actual high school season, you're kind of pretty far down the tube in terms of, you know, other teams just get to practice, but I mean, you've kind of already hit that environment.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of dedication, and we start training in November, and we train to March to early April. So at that point, we've already been putting like 12 to 18 hours into the pool, plus weightlifting, plus mental training. And it's just a really long season. And like you have to love it in order to put into this dedication, and you get out what you put in. And basically it's just a lifestyle, and it's a whole routine from waking up at 5 a.m. to swim, to going to school, to then turning around after school and putting in more practice, and then going to weight. And then it's basically after that, just homework. So you really have to love it in order to put the dedication in, and it just takes a lot of effort, but the outcome is worth it.
I would imagine that means, too, that your parents really have to love it from the beginning.
They do, because even when you're younger and you don't have your license, they're the ones that have to get up out of bed as well, and it just, I really appreciate my parents' help throughout the years. I couldn't have done it without them. But yeah, it's a lot of work for everybody.
Now, when you got into this, I know you've been doing this for quite a while. What was the jumping off point where you went from, you know, just kind of to learning how to swim to kind of realizing of, okay, I can do more with this, and I really want to do more with this?
So I started swimming when I was probably 5 or 6. I don't really remember my life without it. And it would start off, we started swimming like summer swim. And then once you're realizing, you know, at 5 years old that you can put your head down and like breathe to the side, you're like, okay, like I can kind of get the hold of this. And so then you can get into club swimming at a pretty young age, and putting a lot of hours in club swim, because we balance club and high school swimming. And so once you get to high school and you've got your club, your background, it can really take off from there. I took off at about like age 12, where I started really understanding like how to work hard and learn all those big life lessons that can take you throughout your whole life.
Now, let me ask this, because I know that for other sports that the rules are very strict of you can't do anything outside of your high school team while your high school team is in season. Is it that way with swimming, or is that everything else just butts up against your season?
So, yeah. So we are allowed to continue practicing from our club team. And it's important to keep practicing club because, you know, a lot of your high school hours are like available. You got to put in the extra if you want to be an elite swimmer. And so you're not allowed to swim high school meets, or Y meets, sorry. You're not allowed to swim Y meets once you start high school swim. You can still practice, but you can't swim meets, Y meets specifically. But there is also more benefits to club swimming because once the high school season does end, because we swim, like our ultimate goal is to swim at the state level, and we train the most for our high school districts meet. But once that is over, we can also qualify for nationals for club, and you can qualify for nationals all in the same race at districts at your high school meet. So it all kind of comes together, but club can definitely play a big role in your success.
I'm trying to write all that down, and I'm drawing a Venn diagram and a bunch of trees, and I can't imagine having to try to keep all of that straight on your end.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. And it comes with a lot of, you have to have a lot of mental strength, and it comes down to just wanting to put in the dedication and wanting to put in the work.
I'll ask about your high school season first because it's the most black and white thing that I know. Last year, you guys finished fourth in the Western Buckeye League. Obviously, a very good OG program at the top. What's the goal coming in this year, individually and as a team? Is it to win the WBL or to just kind of build to do something later on? I
mean, we have a lot of good teams. Like Shawnee's got a lot of good girls this year, and they have a good team. And OG has a lot of great swimmers. So our league is very competitive, and we have a lot of great swimmers too. We have upcoming freshmen, Brady Triplet and Peyton Gable, and they could play a big success in relays, and so we could very well be up there with these bigger teams.
When you look at kind of the landscape, you look at the districts, and I know this is always the cart before the horse thing, but I'm always fascinated by kind of how this goes on a broader scope. When you branch outside of the WBL, when you start getting to districts and regionals and in state, do you know pretty much from the beginning from your club season of who's probably going to be there, or is it because it's kind of a smaller knit group?
Yes, we do know who we're swimming against, and we know like what our opponents are swimming what, and you can kind of map it out definitely, and kind of strategize almost in a sense to see am I going to be better off in this event or this event because I'm swimming against so and so here and so from OG or so and so from Shawnee. So it all kind of plays into one big role in everything.
I just have all these technical questions because I'm just fascinated. With the way this goes, when you get ready to go to the pool, are you thinking about your opponent or the pool, or is it just, hey, I'm going to do my thing and whatever happens, happens?
Kind of a mixture of all three. You have to focus on yourself in the sense to put yourself against your opponent. But ultimately, you have to worry mostly about your own race. But others finishes determine your own, because of when you swim at the district level, the rule is that the top two advance to state, and after that, it goes from time. So, in a sense, you have to worry about where you're at in your swimming, and you also have to consider who else is swimming and where your results fall.
How nerve-wracking is that if you're waiting to go in on time of doing the math and kind of watching the boards and hoping that your name comes up?
Yeah, that was actually me my freshman year. I thought that I had gotten second in my heat, but and I was like, that's some like I automatically advanced. I was so excited, and I got out of the water, and my coach was like, there was a girl that had a phenomenal race in the heat above you, and so we're just gonna have to wait and see. And my coach's husband was at home, and he was crunching together the numbers of the results from the other district meets, and it came out that my time qualified, and I would made it to the top 24. So it was very exciting, but it was also like a lot of emotions at once.
I can't imagine just being at home and being able to he probably bit his fingernails off, I would think.
I was biting my fingers off for sure.
With it being such a close-knit group in terms of, basketball and everything, football and all the big sports, that there's so many kids playing and so many teams, there's not as many kind of in the area. Do you find that makes everybody kind of, because I saw a lot of pictures with other schools that would generally be rivals, that maybe you guys are a tighter knit group because of that?
Oh yeah, I swim with we know a lot of people from clubs because at Amphi it was All Glazed Mercer, so and people came from even Versailles to swim, and even now that I'm swimming with the Lima Club team, I know all the girls from Shawnee and all the people from OG, and like I know the people from Salina, Marion Local. It really comes together as one big family, and you can be with the swimmers that put as much time in as you do, and it creates like a really strong bond, and it's really what makes the season so worth it.
Because you might not always be with all of your high school teammates, right? They could be on other club teams.
Right, exactly. And that's how a lot of it is. Like, a lot of the times, like, we swim with our high school teams in the mornings or in the late afternoons right after school. And then around, like, around the time of, like, 6 o'clock, we can all come and swim together. And we're all just from all over. You get to swim with a lot of the same goal-oriented teammates and people that like to put in the work like you do.
I say this as a complete joke, but when you get to go to nationals, who put them in Canton? They couldn't put them somewhere nice and warm?
I know. Well, we go to North Carolina to compete in nationals in Greensboro, and we get to go there during the summer too. After a 6-week break from the season, we get to start training for long course, which is a 15-meter pool instead of a 25-meter pool, and you can qualify for nationals and get to be in North Carolina when it's actually nice out.
Well, that's a plus because it's probably sure as heck not right now.
Yeah, it's not.
What's been the highlight for you so far with this journey?
Ooh, that's a good question. My biggest accomplishments were definitely making it to state my freshman year. And I got to swim at Long Course Nationals last year, and that was a really cool experience for me.
Well, I thank you so much for doing this. Like I said, I didn't know a lot, and I feel like I still don't know a lot, but I know a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's pretty in depth.
Like I said, I try to read all kinds of things to try to sound intelligent to ask you questions, and I just got lost and was in a rabbit hole.
I know. It's hard for a lot of people that haven't experienced sport to understand it. So,
yeah, I'm just trying to keep my head above water when I go swimming at this point.
Yep.
When do you guys get back in the pool? When do you go again?
We swim at the Lima Invitational next Tuesday.
Well, I wish you guys the best of luck coming up and all season long.
Thank you. I hope that our season goes well, and I'm sure a lot of my teammates and I can hopefully reach our goals.
That's Ciera Rupert talking about swimming all over the world, but also St. Mary's. Back with more here in just a couple of minutes.
At Herringhouse Furniture in downtown Ottawa, we have over 35,000 square feet of showroom featuring a huge selection of Lazy Boy reclining sofa groups. Come on over and check us out.
I hope you enjoyed the final episode of 2022. Hoping to get back into the swing here with more of these in 2023. Sometimes the holidays get in the way. I hope that everybody is doing well. Thanks to Dan Williamson, Tim Cary, and Ciera Rupert for coming in and joining this little show, and for you for listening and supporting it as well. I hope that you've enjoyed it. 23 is going to be big. Hit me up on Twitter if you would like to be a part of the show. We'll talk about anything pretty much on this show, as long as it is in a positive light. That's been the guise of the whole show from the beginning. If I don't see you, if I don't talk to you, we're on a gym in Northwest Ohio, come up, say hey. My daughter will probably be there, and I will probably be chasing her at some point. There is a good chance that is exactly what will happen. But I hope that you had a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a Merry New Year as well. Have a great night, and an even better tomorrow.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Around the Hearn. Come back next week for more local stories from the NWO. But until then, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Michael Hearn PBP for more great area content.